comes to me in dreams somehow, extends her loving hand. She never says a word out loud, but still I understand when her blue jean eyes offer words so wise. It's a given that you're cheating on yourself if all this living is just a hazard to your health. Though you run from where you're headed, please don't hide. Burn the maps and leave here satisfied. Too soon, because the daylight comes and I slip into my well-worn shoes. Walking through the hours becomes a waltz of 12-bar blues. Well, I read an Instagram song, but still my feet refuse, 'cause I'm too buckled down, too damn tightly wound. Some say I'm driven, collecting trophies for my shelf, but that ain't living. No, it's a hazard to my health. Our statues spin the story of a man who tried but failed. If I don't leave here satisfied, breath's amazing. Seize these days and raise a tired fist when it comes time. It's a given that you're cheating on yourself if all this living is just a hazard to your health. Though you run from where you're headed, please don't hide. Burn the maps and leave here satisfied. Well, if you've been given so much love, then share the wealth and don't let's leave it be a hazard to your health. Though we run from where we're headed, we can't hide. Burn the maps and leave here satisfied. Burn the maps and leave here satisfied.
Please pray with me. As we come together today, we know that the day is a blessing from that one greatest one, the one who has created each and every one of us, who has created this world that we live in, who has created each great blade of grass. We know that we are connected in that way, as we are all part of that one. So in knowing that, we know that we are community. We are here for one another. We are here to help one another, to love one another, to be there for one another. In this time, we are grateful for this community, for this space that we are now occupying. In our visions, we visioned this, and it became truth. As it does, it manifests in the mind of that one great Spirit. So as we move forward, we know that we are growing, that we are having more and more opportunities to come together for various things, to grow our community, to enjoy our community, and to enjoy one another. So for this, we are so grateful. We are also very grateful for each and every person who gives up their time, our ushers, our tech team, our practitioners, everyone who has something to do with putting this Sunday service together. We are so grateful for each and every one. We are also grateful and send our love out to each and every person, no matter how they are deciding to spend this day and to honor Spirit. We bless them wherever they are, whatever they're doing. Because wherever they are, God is, as God is here right now. So for this and for so much more, we are so very grateful and thankful as we say together, and so it is. We have some words of inspiration for today. It's You and Me Create Society is our title today. So our first one is from Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. We all are called to be repairers of creation. Thank you for whatever you do to bring joy, light, hope, faith, pardon, and love to your neighbors and to yourself. And from a 19th century Hindu mystic, I'm probably going to ruin his name, but I'm going to try. It's Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce that right. But what he has to say is art, freedom, and creativity will change society faster than politics. I thought that was really good, especially right now. And from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, if God can work for us only by working through us, we cannot afford to hold personal animosities or enmities against the world or members of society. All such thoughts are outside the law and cannot be taken into the heavenly consciousness. Love alone can beget love.
We are, let's see, what are we? We are entering into a new paradigm on planet Earth. There is change everywhere around us. We are being impacted by so many ideas and so many things. And I believe that we're being impacted by a whole lot of stuff from before. And we're challenged in letting it go and getting past it and moving on. And that's a piece of it as well. We have a teaching right here. We are so blessed. We have a teaching that we are a beloved society. And that just has such a great message and meaning for me, just those two words, beloved society. And what we are invited to do and be is to show up as love, and to love. And not just love from an independent individual space, but from a community space of loving all people, all groups, all organizations. Boy, that makes it a little different picture, doesn't it? Makes it kind of like, yeah, but maybe not so much. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. So this week our focus is in that process of relationship is to look at the relationship we have in society. Look at the relationship we have with society. And is it satisfying? Are we feeling comfortable and confident with where we are? Or is there a need for something else? How our relationships show up and how they are formed is a really important piece of this process as well. We don't just accidentally fall into relationship. Well, maybe I did in my 20s, but for the most part, we don't accidentally just connect with someone. First of all, I don't believe in accidents. That's another word out there with coincidence, and I don't believe in that either. There's something orchestrating it, and much of what is orchestrating that is the energy within us. So we want to pay attention to that. And then when we look at society and the part we play, then we can take that awareness and look at the global context and look at what we can do for the planet and how we can show up on planet Earth. So what we are really being asked to do right here and right now is this thing called pivot. So you're looking this direction and everything looks this way and it's exactly what it is and it's not working, and all we have to do is just, you don't have to do a complete spin around, you just need to pivot and take a different view and take a different perspective. So I want to tell you about a group of beings that I believe have a really cool society. They're called prairie dogs. And I talk about the prairie dog because there is a whole village of them not far from my home. And so I get to walk my dog, my dear Lotus, past the prairie dog village from time to time. And it's so amazing to watch them because they're usually standing up on a little mound of dirt next to a little dugout, and they're chattering. And the closer you get to them, the more they are chattering. And then more little heads pop up, and there's more noise, and there's more chattering, and there's something going on. And I don't know if they're saying hello, I don't know if they're saying get the heck away, I don't know what they're saying, but I think they're adorable. Some people think that they are harmful to the environment. I'm not going to talk about that. So here's what they do. They create these underground burrows. In their underground burrows, they create nurseries for their young. They create sleeping quarters, and they create toilet areas. Amazing, amazing. And they even share their burrows from time to time with things like burrowing owls and snakes, which is so fun, because I don't want to share my space with any of those guys, but they do. And they create this incredible community, if you will. And then they support each other. And they have this process that they do, for those of you in the room and can see the picture, where they kind of do this nuzzly kiss thing when they greet each other. How incredible is that? I'm sure they're chattering while they're doing that, I don't know. But anyway, they share their food with every member that lives within their particular burrow. They make sure to cooperate with the tasks that need to be done and the way the food is brought in and the way the food is distributed so that everyone gets to eat. Instead of doing that wonderful thing we do where we think we have to move them away from whatever area that they're in, we could learn a lot from some beautiful being as simple as the prairie dog. So what can we do with that? What does that mean to us? Well, it means a lot to us when we're looking at this idea of society, because we have a lot of places where society is kind of, I don't want to say broken. There's a few hiccups going on, or a lot. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says this: unity is the basis of all that is. When I embody myself in my thoughts selfishly, I am separating myself from that which I think would be my good. You may think this is a very subtle thing, and yet it is the foundation of most of our troubles. I found it interesting that he talked about that selfish component. When we separate ourselves selfishly, when we step out of the great mechanisms and processes we put it together to create community and society so that it works, so that we can work well together, and when we pull off to the side or we go into some kind of stubborn, selfish kind of concept, we're creating, number one, we're creating a ripple effect, but we're creating kind of a breakdown in that process. So we want to be really aware of that. We want to pay attention to what that's about and what does that mean for the greater good, for the entire society. David Richo gives us a quote that says, "Poverty, hunger, and deprivation are not acceptable facts of life. Let me repeat that. Poverty, hunger, and deprivation are not acceptable facts of life. They are the consequences of economic injustice. We are Christ on earth today when we look carefully at what we support in our society and ask how it may be part of the system that keeps others oppressed. Oh my goodness. What is the part that you're playing? What is the role that you have chosen for yourself? What are the things that you could choose differently, possibly? What we are called to do today, and we are called to contribute to community and society, we are looking for and we are striving toward, and we have set an intention, a goal, a vision of a world that works for everyone. That means that every little component of that world, every little piece of the planet, every little organization, every little structure also must lead to that greater good, or we can't get there. Pay attention this week to all the things that are going on around us. We get to decide. We're completely at choice. I tell you this all the time. We get to decide. You get to walk out the door and you get to decide, are you going to take another step? Are you going to look at it differently? Are you going to contribute more? How are you going to play this wonderful game we call life, which doesn't feel much like a game much lately? Yeah. So we're rebuilding the world. We are. We're recreating. I think the challenge is there's a whole group of us who really want to go back there. I'm not happy here. I remember a time when I was happy, or I was happier, or I thought I was because it felt better than it feels right now, and I want to go back, and I want to go back and grab this, and I want to go back and lean into the way it was. And I am so sorry if I'm the first person to tell you this. You can't go back. That's not going to happen. We get to continue to move forward, to strive for bigger, better, brighter, beautiful, more loving, more kind relationships and society. Buckminster Fuller said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." The universe and the way of the planet keeps giving us massive opportunities to do this. And every time we receive an opportunity, like a fire that devastates a lot of area, or a tsunami, or a flood, or an earthquake, or a pandemic, we step up and we start going that process until it calms down a little bit. And then we just want to kind of sit back in and go, okay, well, all right, well, we'll see what happens next. Maybe we can go back. Maybe we can go back to normal. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, oh, let's go back 4 years ago, there was no normal. I don't know what people are wanting to go back to, but it wasn't normal then, and it isn't normal now, and it won't ever be. We need to stop using that word. This is our Science of Mind magazine. If you haven't seen it, you can subscribe to this online or in the mail. I love this magazine. It comes out once a month. And this month there is a write-up in here from our spiritual leader, Centers for Spiritual Living spiritual leader, Reverend Dr. Edward Villon. And I told you about this a little bit when I came back from convention in January, because he spoke these words at convention. But I want to just kind of recap a little bit of what he had to say. This month marks the 10th anniversary for the integration of Centers for Spiritual Living. That means that 10 years ago, a whole group of people got together and decided that we could no longer walk side by side with these two organizations and kind of sort of speaking of unity and how we're all one, and be believed for one thing, and to be in integrity for another, and that we had to bring these together. We had to integrate. And so there was this resounding yes that took place on July 12th, 2012. Is that 10 years ago? Yeah. And so In that resounding yes, did everyone know exactly what they were going to do? Did everyone know what their piece of the process was? Not necessarily. We didn't even understand quite how the how was going to come forth. We just knew that, yes, this is what we get to do. And so talents needed to show up, people needed to show up, change needed to happen, belief systems needed to be let go of to create this new process. And one of the things that he spoke in his talk that I really, really love that I want to share with you now is he quoted Dr. Holmes, who spoke this back in the, somewhere around the 1930s. And what Holmes said at that time was, the one who understands the science of mind will be tolerant, kind, and sympathetic. Well, that sounds like a pretty good statement, until you look at the word tolerant. Because I can be tolerant of a lot of stuff. And it doesn't mean I like it, and it doesn't mean I'm going to be particularly kind about it, and it might mean I'm going to grumble about it, because I am just being tolerant. And so what Dr. Edward told us was that we need to rewrite that statement. That fit back in the 1930s, 1940s. It doesn't fit today. And so today we want to change that statement, and here's the new statement. Today we would say, the one who understands science of mind will be inclusive, compassionate, loving, curious, appreciative, radically welcoming, fearless, helpful, and engaged. Wow, that is incredible. That is beautiful. The one who understands science of mind, which is our philosophy, which is the book that we use, that we teach from. So what's the question I'm going to ask you? The question I'm going to ask you today is, are you willing? Are you willing to step into that space? Are you willing to become a part of a society or a community that's thriving and growing and serving and showing up and celebrating and being so much more? Or did you get comfortable at home with YouTube and Zoom and some of those programs, and you've chosen to believe that that means you don't necessarily have to participate outside the confines of your home? So let's take that this week and just kind of play with that idea about what am I willing to do? Because I have to be really careful, because when I go into prayer and I say, let's make this happen, it starts happening, I'm like, oh, whoa, wait. That wasn't exactly what I didn't really want it to happen that way. Well, we're moving. The momentum has already been built. So let's pay attention to that. Let's just consider that, because what we are doing right now, my friends, is we are planting the seeds for 10 years down the road. And whether you plan to be here or not, there are people that you love and there are people that you support that will be. So what are we creating for them? There's a story of a professor who invited a group of his graduates into his home for coffee. And they all came into his home and they all sat down and they all started talking about school and they all started talking about life, because now they're done. And they began to grumble and they began to complain and they began to pick things apart that just weren't working for them. And so he went into the kitchen to get the coffee, and he brought out in a pot, and he brought a big tray full of all kinds of cups. Now on this tray were some beautiful, almost antique-looking cups with a little matching saucer, how pretty is that? And then there were some cups that looked more like kind of plastic and plain. And there were some that were just kind of ceramic and not china. And he sat the tray down and he watched these individuals as they each selected one of the prettiest cups they could find. And what he said to them was, I noticed that all of the not as attractive cups are still on the tray. And I noticed that you selected ones that you thought were better or nicer than others. And he said, and that's absolutely normal. It's absolutely normal for you to want something good, pretty, nice for yourself. He said, however, it's not going to change the taste of the coffee. The coffee's going to be the coffee. And he said, and the truth is, you don't get to take the cup home. So again, what are we looking at here? What is this about? That we wanted to have something really pretty just to sit for 20, 30 minutes and drink our coffee out of, while leaving something that was less appealing for someone else to deal with. He said, you came here to visit, but all you wanted from me was coffee. You consciously picked the best cups. So think of it this way. Life is like coffee. Your job, your money, your position, society, those are the cups. Those are the cups. They are only instruments for maintenance and upkeep of life. The type of cup you have does not determine the quality of your life. So one of the things that I appreciate about that, he says sometimes if we're only concentrating on the cup or the container, we forget to enjoy the taste of the coffee or tea or whatever you've chosen. So I think that's such an easy way to look at this idea of, am I aware of that piece of the process? Am I aware of what I'm bringing to the table? Am I aware that it doesn't have to do with anything with the container? Or am I sitting back, grumbling, thinking that it isn't mine to do, and complaining about what's going on in the world? We have heard a phrase called the old guard. And it has been said that when the old guard dies off, then things like racism, genocide, homophobia, and terrorism will vanish. Wow. So who or what is the old guard? Well, it isn't a being, it is a process, it is a structure, it is a rule, it is a law, it is something that no longer serves us. It's not the people, it's the constraints by which the people have to function and operate. So when we look at the things that are going on today and we look at the things that we're kind of disgruntled about, the things that need to be changed, the things that need to be shifted are those systems. That's where we've got to put our attention. And let me tell you something, if you decide it is yours to do, and one of those things that gets to be changed has to do with a law, persistence, commitment are some good things to pray for, because it's not easy. And it's as simple as going forward and we're going to make this change and we're going to do something about this, and you run into a brick wall, well, you can't just turn around and walk back and go, well, I tried. You get to figure out how to get past that wall. I was part of a committee that was working at changing the legislature a little over a year and a half ago regarding the use of ketamine when the first responders showed up and the police department was involved, and how that was working with someone who was hysterical, challenged, whatever. Oh my goodness, I found out more about legislation than I ever wanted to know. And we did get some changes in Aurora. We got some changes that took place in Aurora immediately. Now, where all that is going on a global level, I don't have that answer, because once I supported the committee and we were no longer having regular meetings, I kind of stepped away and I thought, okay, well, we did something. I'm not sure, we're not there yet, but we made a difference. We made a shift and a change. It's tough. It's not easy. So we have to really decide, what do we want to do and who do we want to be and how are we going to support this whole process of society. There are places around the world where there are norms in society that continue to perpetuate hatred and violence. And much of this is hatred and violence towards the LGBTQIA2+ community, which is a ever-growing, expanding, evolving community, a society within our society, a part of us. And you can think, okay, well, yeah, I heard it's really rough for those guys over in Russia. They just need to move. No. Let me explain to you something. And I think we all know this. The energy around that persecution, the energy around those restrictions is felt everywhere. Not just for those who are living in those communities, but they are all aware. And we get to be aware as well, and how can we support and how can we change? There are people who are choosing to do the good work. And there are people who are holding on to past beliefs that no longer serve us. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to consider a new way to believe. Maybe it's time to consider a new way to look at what is going on. Because what we want to do in this world is we want to create equal rights. Equal rights. We want to create protection for all people under the law. We want to open up the idea and the mindset that we all have the freedom to live and to be who we are. And to recognize and realize that each one of us is an individualized expression of God. Dr. Edward also says this: our teaching of oneness and wholeness creates the moral compass and a welcoming environment that affirms transgender people and all people of all lifestyles and all races as exquisitely individualized expression of divinity and celebrates their contributions to society. Can we do that? Can we step into that place that we can choose to recognize that all people should be supported, all people should be loved? Can we move into that space that says each one of us, regardless of how you're acting in the moment or what's going on, is an individualized expression of the one? Because that's when we go to that place of the we. You and I are we, and we create society. And we step into that place. I had lunch with my sister-in-law the other day. Haven't seen her since my dad passed. And an individual in our family who happens to be one of her children has recently re-identified as a gender that was not the gender that they were acknowledged as when they were born. So this now young woman in her life, adult, has reached adulthood, and I'm asking my sister-in-law how she's doing in this world, how is this working for her? And we were able to move past all of the religious stuff we'd been taught that wouldn't allow us to love her, to love this young woman. And we were able to move into that place of how much we love this person. And we can love this person however they choose to express. And then how can we support and how can we move forward? And I'm so excited. I'm going to be going up there in a couple of weeks and just hang out with them and have a barbecue and just spend some time together. But it was just so interesting because there were tears. There was some sorrow, if I was to identify it, that she was dealing with about how can she do this, because all of this stuff that was poured into her head years and years and years ago is saying, it doesn't work that way. So again, what can we do? How can we show up? Ernest Holmes says this: we cannot afford to hold personal animosities against the world or individual members of society. We cannot afford to hold personal animosities against the world or individual members of society. All such thoughts are outside the law. Love alone can beget love. That's all it's going to take, is love. So we are reminded again to stop grumbling. We're reminded not to hold a grudge against someone else, not to point a finger and blame a certain group or a certain person, but to stand in that place of love and go, how can I love? How can I love? Who can I love? How can I love more? How can I express love better? What can I do? If we truly want this planet to be better for our children and grandchildren, we're going to have to get busy. We're going to have to do some things a little different. And so even here in this community of New Dawn, we have, once again, moved into a space of recreation of who we are, how we stand, what we want to do, how we perform, just the environment. When we change the environment, everything shifts. We all start, we enter the room differently. I mean, it's just a piece of the process. The world has changed. We need to get over ourselves and just recognize that we've got to make a contribution. We have got to shift our thinking. And let me tell you something. I no sooner wrote those words down earlier this week till I started getting hit 6 ways from Sundays about all of the ways I get to change my thinking. Oh my goodness. Every minute of every day some thought would show up and I'm thinking, oh, okay, no, I can't do that anymore. That's not serving. I need to let that go. That's not a value. So I have a quote here from Ramakrishna Paramahansa, which Sharon spoke to you a little bit ago. And it says, it doesn't say that. Okay, are you helping me? Art, freedom, and creativity will change society faster than politics. And I'm really grateful that that's one of the quotes that Sharon pulled, because you need to hear that twice. Art, freedom, and creativity will change society faster than politics. Think about, whether you were around or not, back in the 50s with rock and roll. How quickly did this world shift and change? I mean, seriously. It was amazing through my head. Those of you who know me know how that works. And it was, gee, maybe I should run for mayor. And then within 29 seconds or so, it was like, yeah, no, that's not where I'm supposed to be. But I am supposed to be in that space of serving, etc. Not in a political arena. Don't think that's going to work for me. But let's just get creative. Let's just get creative. Let's let New Dawn show up in the community in creative ways and allow people to get a sense of who we are and how welcoming and loving we are and how we support you where you are right now. You don't have to make a whole lot of changes in your life to walk through those doors and be a part of this. Just show up. And if you don't show up, chances are good we're going to come out there and find you, because that's what we do. And so this week, as you interact with the world, take a moment, take a breath and consider what seems to be normal, because we love that word. And look around at what is happening and what have you agreed to be a part of? How have you agreed to be a support? Because if you're not supporting it and you're not speaking out, you're supporting it. So let's take time this week to do that. And then let's look at, through that lens of ours, what it would look like differently if it was a world that worked for everyone. If I'm in this space and if I'm in this place and I'm seeing some kind of persecution or challenge or problem, and if the world worked the way it needs to work for everyone, what would that look like and how would that look differently, and what can I do, or who can I help bring in to make those changes? That's what we want to do this week. There is always an invitation for you to treat and move your feet. And in our philosophy, treat is spiritual mind treatment, where you go into that place of that wonderful sanctuary within your heart, and you go into that and you speak what you choose and you affirm who you are, and Spirit is listening. Of course, Spirit's always listening. Treat. Treat for yourself. Treat for the planet. Treat for the person who cut you off in traffic. And when I say treat, that means we're blessing that person and we're not doing any that other mind chatter. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that this week. And let's consider what we can do to support transgender rights. Let's see what we can do to support the rights of those who are part of what we continue to call minorities, and we want to put in a category and they're not receiving fair, just respect. What can we do? How can we do it? And the how is part of the treatment, because that's where spirit comes in. And if you're having a challenge with how to take that into treatment and treat for yourself for what you can do, contact a practitioner because they will help you. That's what their role is, to support you in that. Let's take time this week to look at all the ways that we can be creative. Because in our creativity, through that power that is creative in all things, we are here to change the world. Please pray with me. What we know and recognize right here and right now is that there is a power. There is a power, a presence, a creative source in back of all things. I call it God. I call it Spirit. I call it universal wisdom. And it is here and available to each and every one of us. And what we know right here and right now is that this power is also my power. It is also our power to do with as we choose. And so this week, we pay attention to what is going on around us. We pay attention to beliefs that no longer serve us and we need to let go of. And we pay attention to all of those wonderful, amazing places in society and community where a system is broken, a system is damaged, a system is non-functioning, and how can we support the change and the shift to edify others and the world? That feels so good. That feels so perfect, and that feels so blessed. And so what I know for each and every one of us right now is that this week we go forward. We carry that energy of spirit with us because we can't go forward without it. It is a part of who we are. We remind ourselves that unity is the answer and that love is the answer, and that the pathway we need to be on is just through that place of love. And we apply that to every single aspect of our lives this week. Love. Simply love. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak these words. I'm so grateful to stand in this space where I know I stand for a better time, a better place, and a better world. And I know it's good, and I know it's perfect, and I know it's all God, and I know it is already done in the mind of God. And there's nothing more we need to do but let it go and let it be, as together we say, and so it is.
Here we are, we don't know what for. We've got all we need, but we're fighting for more than we say. Hey, I'm okay. We still fight every day we spend, just chasing our tails. Those stories we live by, they lock us in jail. And we say, hey, well, I'm okay. We still chase every day. Those things we do, roll the love down Life Avenue. I know we don't stand a chance when all our regrets come and ask us to dance. Though we say, hey, well, I don't like that tune. It still sweeps us away in these strings, so tied you out, and all of our frets makes the song those sounds that we say. Hey, well, I'm okay. We still fret every day. It's hell to be so afraid. Love changes to plans our hands have made. Oh, what our hands might do if they dropped those things they do. Pick up love on Life Avenue. If we stop those things we do, ride the love down Life Avenue.
I like to pantomime. I like to act out when I sing. I also like to sway. If you like to sway, a little soothing. A little breezes in the trees. There we go. Okay.
Hello, I'm Reverend Jen Wild, Senior Minister for New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living. New Dawn Center is a global community, and we welcome all people, all paths, all ways of thinking, all philosophies. So know that you are welcome here, and thank you for joining our online community.